Greetings. Guten Tag, Talo Falava. Especially to my Snow Cane Club congregation, Snow Sheep, Snow Shepherds. This is Dr. Snow Brown speaking to you all this morning, being the 15th of October, 2022. It's nice to catch up with all of you. Now, this evening, this morning actually, I'm wanting to probably have a discussion, but this is also preaching on the level of a natural pastor regarding the posting dated the 14th, 10/22 to Chancellor Olaf Scholz, particularly in terms of the request again, the sealed anointing, special birthday request of 1,000 Nazi soldiers that I have requested again. And I, Dr. Snow Brown, this is my title. It's a special title, and I think you all know it's a knighthood. Now, in the Samoan culture, titles are very important. That's another topic I want to touch base on this morning as well. That titles are very important, not only in the Samoan Matai culture, customs and traditions of the Matai system in Samoa, but is also very important in elite societies, in any society, in fact, not just in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but in any nation around the globe, and going right back medieval times during the so-called English kings and queens and nobles of the Scottish clans. Titles are very important, especially of course to the United Kingdom and King Charles, His Royal Highness King Charles III, who recently has been proclaimed as the new King of England. His title is very important. His coronation is coming up at some stage. Yes, titles are important. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her title was very important because it had a global, recognition, global importance, significance. And it also it brought many blessings to the English monarch, to the Royal English monarch, and also to the citizens of Great Britain. And it's also a title that also brought many other significant milestones during her reignship, the 70 years reignship of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who may she rest in peace. May she rest in peace. Yes, titles are very important. So in most societies, in fact, in our society here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, the last 40-odd years that I have grown up here, in Kiwi land, having a title is very important. Title of Sir and Dame in front of your normal ordinary names, your maiden names or your married names, it gives you special privileges. You become a special member of the Order of the Queen's Round Table, that's correct, or you become a knight of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And of course, in this case, now that we've got a new king, King Charles III, all the so-called knighted knights and dames, sirs and dames of New Zealand will automatically now become part of King Charles III's round tables, will become his knights. That's correct. So, and what's the other thing? So knighthoods are important, sirs and dames are important. Having a title gives some sort of significance, gives you prominence in society, a status of some sort, prestigiousness. I think prestige or important privileges. And I know that King Charles III's, the English monarch of England, titles, they have many, many titles. In fact, Prince William has been bestowed or given the honour by his father, King Charles III, Prince of Wales title. And those titles are royal titles, of course, titles with nobility. But it comes with not only status, but it comes with assets as well. In other privileges, important privileges. So the title of Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, is an important title. She is like the head of state of New Zealand, or Aotearoa New Zealand. The title of Governor General, right honourable before your names, are very important here because you become part of the elite, or somebody of important status in New Zealand. So I guess my point is, if you don't have a title, and every Samoan, Matai chiefs know the meaning of their titles, that if they have a title bestowed upon their names or their honour, they get a special title, which might be the highest is a paramount chief's title. Then the next level is a high chief title, and the next one is an orator title, Matai title. Those chief titles give those, it's an honor. It is a privilege, but it's an honor, but it gives women and men in the Samoan culture important, significant, and important responsibilities, important, prestigious privileges as well. So having a title is very important. It raises your status. It elevates your status would be the right word. That's correct. So, I mean, in the Samoan culture, men and women, especially men that do not have any titles, are not considered to be important or given special privileges or special status or something. Don't have any so-called chief speaking rights. So at gatherings, weddings and funerals, if there are chiefs among them, the so-called men that are untitled, referred to as taulelea, they do not have any speaking rights. In fact, they're not allowed to even challenge, say, the orators or any chiefs there at the particular function or meeting. In fact, the ones who have got titles have got more rights. It depends on the level of their title, paramount chief, high chief title, or an orator title, and also it depends on the importance of which branch, which family, nobility, or village their title comes from. They will have more rights to tell the people that are untitled, the men and women that have no titles or any status of any sort, that to be silent. And they can also chase them out of the function, out of the premises or off the premises. They can even have them arrested and have them also disciplined as well. And a lot of the chiefs who are important chiefs, a lot of them can impose penalties and fines and whatnot for members of that particular village who have broken the law, which might be that they've committed a heinous crime, a sex crime of some sort, upon another so-called Matai so-called wife, or a member of a Matai chief family, or a member of a royal family, that's great. They do not let you get off like they do here in New Zealand. And that's the other thing I'm going to talk about. I'll briefly read again this. So titles. So again, having a title is very important. Now, there is a gentleman in Samoa that has the honor and the privilege of bestowing chiefly titles. And that is his Honourable, is Fionga's name. He's from the chief of the Sa Te Whaiono family. And he was the one who bestowed some chiefly titles there back in on the 20th of November 2016. His Honourable Te Whaiono Vui Whaatali Levasa. That's correct. Now, the sad thing about that particular bestowing of titles was that my brother was denied his right to have the title of Te Alino to be bestowed on my mother's side. Very sad, because he travelled, well, he's a constable in a small township, Murupara, not far from Rotorua, where he lives, with his wife and 3 children. You know, at that particular bestowing of titles, it was a special moment in the Samoan community, because Te Whaiono, it's not often that he would open the floor, so to speak, and allow anyone to come to have a title to be bestowed. And you only had to pay $1,000 New Zealand. That was the fee. Now, of course, my brother, at short notice, everybody had booked there. Even my nephew, my second sister's son, had also gone there, Max, to Letefunga, to have a title of his own to be bestowed. So it was a very special occasion, because everybody was looking forward to having, you know, a chief title bestowed. So my brother, at short notice, got ready, booked his flight, turned up in Samoa. Of course, he didn't know that there was another group of Jello Miller marshmallows that were going to, you know, deny him his opportunity. Remember, this will be if he had the title of Te Alino on my mother's side bestowed in that sitting, in that bestowing of the chiefly titles, he would have been the first. He would have been the first in, you know, among 7 of us children. You know, 6 daughters, including myself, and 1 son. He would have been the first out of the 7 of us siblings to be bestowed a special, very prestigious title of Te Alino on my mother's side. It's a rare title, actually. My dad had the Te Alino. So at the same sitting, at the same chiefly bestowing of titles, one of our dad's brother was there with the other 5, 6 siblings there to, you know, for the same, to have the Te Alino title on dad's side to be bestowed. And of course, what we didn't expect, that's correct, was that my dad's brother, his name is Matthew Treveranas, was going to challenge, that's correct, Te Whaiono more or less challenge my brother, Malta Treveranas, Bani Treveranas, there at the sitting, or at the bestowing of titles, before all the other nobles there and all the other chiefs, to maybe not have the Te Alino bestowed upon my brother, on my mother's side, because, you know, because he's not only, well, he's like a son to him, is what he's saying, you know, like he's younger than him, and also because he feels that there should only be one Te Alino, you know, like, because this will be the first time that he's ever been able to bestow the title of Te Alino. Basically, I guess what he wanted to do was overrule, really. So this was one of my dad's brothers. He's never ever been bestowed a title, a prestigious title of that caliber at a very high status. That's a high chief's title. That's correct. That was bestowed upon my dad. That he was now getting the opportunity to have bestowed upon him. Now, can you imagine how that's the first time he'd ever reached? And if it wasn't for my dad side of the family, my mother, so-called the Batu side of the family, my dad's side of the family, and even this brother of his, wouldn't have been able. That's correct. It would have been just a free. He would have still been the only title that he was able to inherit or be bestowed was through Granny's side of the family, the Gibbon side of the family, which was the Kufa. Kufa, as in with Heinz Trevorannus over in Timarua. Those two, Mr. and Mrs. Yoke, Mr. Yo, title is also Kufa. So without Granny's so-called side of the family, my dad's younger brothers, Heinz and Matthew Trevorannus, wouldn't have any blessing and wouldn't have any Matai titles, because their title was Kofa and Kofa. Now they were grateful, but it looks like this younger brother of my dad was not grateful. He had not earned the Te Alino title, and here he was challenging, your brother's first time. I know, challenging your brother's opportunity, but he had more rights to my mother's side of the family's Jalino title than he did. I mean, he was just starting. Can you imagine that? So I guess I'm still annoyed about it. I haven't forgiven. I don't forgive Dad's side of the family by so-called robbing and denying us, us 7 children who are actually royal children, those sort of opportunities, those kinds of opportunities. And besides, those are blessings that are relevant. More so to us 7, that's correct. We've got more rights to be bestowed, say, an honorary, a chief title on my mother's side than your dad's brothers. That's correct. Your dad's brothers and sisters, let's just say in this case, ele sang fiao, ma fia pule malo siai, ma file la decision and la kua le challenge, ele deny, that's correct. Le ma fau, le ma siasi, goe fia pule, goe gielo, that's correct. I mean, come on now. So it's no wonder our side of the family, where especially you being the eldest, seem to always be denied and targeted by their criminal connections, that's correct, and was always controlled and dealt to and set up. It's no wonder. My dad's side of the family are not only devious, but are full of jealousy. But I mean, if that's the English example, is that the example that the Webster side of the family set? That's correct for the rest of them. For the rest of us, it's a good thing I left the Trevorannus family on the 14th of November 2019. When I think about it, that's correct. So can you imagine how, you're the eldest of 7 children. I've reached the age of 50. I'll tell you what, I'm actually glad that nobody on my dad's side of the family, and nor even on my mother's side, ever gave me a birthday gift to celebrate my 50th birthday. I'm actually glad that they didn't, because it looks like my dad made up for the blessings. For you think that even if I had disowned myself, say from dad's side of the family, and even that means I would have been disowned also from my mother's side. Families are families, but if they didn't, I don't expect any cards or any, birthday gifts from them. I'm just grateful that the only person that mattered the most to me on my birthday was my dearest mum. That's correct. That gave me a card with some money in it. That's correct. But which is totally relevant, you know. And I said to my sister that I was going to celebrate my 50th birthday by myself, so I didn't want anything from her in terms of food or gifts, and not to worry about any of that, because I was going to celebrate my birthday the way I wanted it, you know, like real back kind of, you know, German kind of way of doing things. And I'm glad I never ever, that's correct, that I never spoke to any. In fact, I'm glad that I've moved on from Dad's side of the family. I never want to speak to any of them, to be honest. Not after finding out you know, that they've already discovered, that's correct, that my dad's side of the family are evil in terms of the fact that they set you up back in 1996 with one of their associates. His name is Dr. Tabi Talipini, who is another Fiapule. That's correct. But really, he's a sex offender. He is actually a sex offender. That's correct. And then that led to the second, you know, terrible assault of your person by a police officer during a lockup. In fact, that's what I wanted to focus on. To read out this posting. 14.10.22 and 14.10.22. I, Dr. Snow Brown, der Neue Fuhrer, hereby command Chancellor Olaf Scholz to deploy 1,000 Nazi soldiers on my behalf to dispense my enemies, to get rid of my enemies, especially KKKs and MMBs with their associates, in exchange for the 6 million Jews murdered in cold blood in World War II. Otherwise, Germany will need to step up and sacrifice 6 million Germans in cold blood in tribute to Oskar Schindler of World War II. I'm afraid New Zealand couldn't sacrifice its treaty document and treaty partnership. Unlike I, der Neue Führer, who is willing to sacrifice all for God, King, Queen, and country. And I mean, I have sacrificed a lot. I, Dr. Snow Brown, being der Neue Führer, is more worthy than Herr Adolf Hitler, as he couldn't shower in cold water for 30 minutes. He wasn't a noble like I, and he couldn't even earn a crystal kingdom like mine. He failed as a German leader, even as a warlord. He didn't win World War III, whereas I know how to win World War III, and I do. If I am der Neue Führer, that's correct. Where Germany could be taught a lesson by my snow sheeps and snow shepherds, provided, of course, USA, South Pacific, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, and Great Britain backs me up. I mean that. No, I mean that. It's not a joke. I actually do mean that. To God be the glory, to God be the glory. So how about it, Chancellor Olaf Scholz? Deploy me my special 1,000 Nazi soldiers in honor of my 50th birthday, and you might never need to sacrifice 6 million Germans in World War III. Besides, you're a Nazi, Chancellor Olaf Scholz. And, yeah, in fact, most Germans are Nazis. Whether they accepted it or not back in World War II, everybody, especially Germans, by their DNA, are Nazis. That's correct. And even today. And in fact, I'm not even going to deny that I'm not a Nazi, because I am. And I mean, through my German heritage, I am a Nazi. Am I guilty of what happened? The so-called the Holocaust? Am I guilty? I think as a German, yes, I would be guilty. It was the fact that there were so many Germans there, that's correct, Adolf Hitler. But of course, they supported it. He was like a king. He was like a king. In fact, he was their king. He was their king. I mean, I know that he earned 2 titles. So the moment, let me just finish reading this. So how about it, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, deploy me my special 1,000 Nazi soldiers, and on my 50th birthday, and you might never need to sacrifice 6 million Germans in World War III. Besides, you're a Nazi, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, but a fair and a good one. And he is, I'm sorry, but he is. It's such a shame when men like Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the rest of the elites of New Zealand undermine women and even discredit them, look down, by declaring them insane and unintelligible, let's just say unintelligent, due to supposedly losing their virginity to a married man in 1996. And his name is Dr. Tavi Talipine. I much prefer to him as just Tavi Talipine. I don't particularly like him at all. I would rather put a bullet in his head right now, because he is guilty and he deserves it. For all the atrocities and the pain and sufferings that I have been enduring in the last, say, 26 years, via the elites, and just in the last 8.5 years, via the elites, more so the elites, as in someone like, Professor Matthew Palmer, Chief Justice Matthew Palmer, and another person, someone like Dr. Megan Woods, that's correct, who is the Minister of Housing and Order. The other person that I know of is Right Honourable Sepuloni, the Minister for Social Development, wins. The other one is probably, and it started to show really badly, I know, there's a lot of them. What's his name? Mr. Anthony Shaw is a lawyer. Terrible how members of this criminal organization, because there is a lot of members of the Mogomo members, the Red Demon, that live inside this building at this address that I refer to as toilet brushes. My God, they sure are toilet brushes. That have been applying their criminal harmful protocols, that's correct, which I really don't have anything to do with, but I think it connects back to Tawita Libine, Matthew Palmer, Anthony Shaw, more so Anthony Shaw, that one. Because, and more so the elites, The elites, the members of the elites, the government of New Zealand, is probably more toxic to me because of the fact that I live among these criminals here inside this building. They're actually more toxic because they have been studying you, that's correct, here at this address with these toilet brushes, or these son of a bitches, arrogant son of a bitches, racist, arrogant son of a bitches, harmful son of a bitches, that's correct, and been applying their harmful protocols, especially the KKKs. I don't particularly like the KKKs at all. They are the most racist, arrogant son of a bitches, just like the elites, Let me just finish reading this, and then I'm going to say something else. Because I don't trust the government of New Zealand. Do you trust the government of New Zealand? When you consider what's been happening to you here at this address the last 8.5 years? No, I don't. Do I respect them? No, I don't, because they didn't respect my boundaries through these people here inside this building and their so-called, and through that lawyer in Oriental Bay, that son of a bitch, and your cousin, and her crazy dad, maniacs, that's correct, Alfatia Baker, your cousin Amanda Baker, because, well, they seem to be doing a lot of stuff for the elites, and they seem to know the elites really well, so they rub skin with them, just like with Mr. and Mrs. Yoke. They know the elites really well, especially the likes of Sir John Key, that's correct, and even Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. Your cousin knows her really well. I know that. How do I know? Well, they do know. And the police commissioner and a lot of the police officers and officials in the system. It's because they've been denying my privileges as a noble, that's correct, inside the system, and they've also been disciplining you, that's correct, via these so-called rat bags, marshmallows. And yet you're above them. You're way above them. You're way above their classes, that's correct. Although you got to give it to them that their pockets are deeper than yours. But do I care? All right, let's finish reading this. Such a shame when men like Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the rest of the elites of New Zealand undermine women and even discredit them. Look down, look down. By declaring them insane and unintelligible due to supposedly losing their virginity to a married man in 1996 by coercion and misrepresentation. Now, of course, there is an officer that I remember back in 2004 or even before that, that I tried to, Jason McAfee, that's correct. Do you remember Jason McAfee? That's correct. I tried to make an arrest, that's correct. And they totally ignore. Totally ignore. The same with the police in Wellington, that's correct. But look now how things worsen for you, how things for the victim actually escalated, that's correct, to the point that it has escalated to, and it was because Tavita Lipina should have been arrested. Back then when I came to make the complaint at the police station, because then the incident that happened to you with Constable Blake, because I don't want to say that I remember, because I do remember. You understand now? That I remember what happened to me? Do you know how a victim feels when they remember something happened to them? Right, now, don't want to discuss anymore, that's correct. But I will say this. That happened to me in 2006, 2003. The second sexual assault, sexual violence. And it was worse than what happened to you back in 96. And this time, it was done to you with the purpose and a sinister, devious intention to make you part of this criminal organization and to make you part, that's correct, of the KK and your so-called, your cousin's evil connection and the rest of your rallies connection as well. That's correct. That's the purpose. That's why they did that. And it's so disgusting that the elites actually, that Tavita Lipina was involved in this second violent, violation of you in 2003 by Constable Blake. Constable Blake is going to have to own up. I'm sorry, but you're guilty. That's correct. I'm hoping to serve a trespass notice. I only need to look at his face and you know, that's correct. Guilty, guilty. That's why the 1,000 Nazi soldiers are important. I need to be respected. My family needs to be respected. We're royals. And our boundaries should have been respected. Not only by the government of New Zealand, but also the ministers of New Zealand. That means Matthew Palmer, that's correct. You had no right to do what you did. If you had, told that police officer to teach me a lesson, to rape me like that, to teach me a lesson during a lockup, I'm sorry, but you're guilty. You deserve a bullet to the head, that's correct. That's not necessary. And if they did that because they wanted you to be part of their criminal organization and you didn't want to be part of it, I'm sorry, again, they need to be put to death. That's correct. That's disgusting. And that's not necessary. That's violence against women. That's correct. We don't need it. I know the Sanganga is a well-known Samoan family, but we're not full Samoan. I know I'm not full Samoan. I'm a German. I'm a Pākehā. That's correct. And I need to be respected. And I ought to be treated with dignity as well and respect. And I don't need some arrogant son of a bitches, especially white racist Pākehās who probably rape their women as well to teach them lessons. to teach me garbage and give me baggage, but garbage that I don't deserve. My mother needs to be respected, that's correct. And their boundaries, our personal spaces, we need to be respected. As royals and as nobles. But if you people are going to, that's right, do what you do and think you can get away with it only because the elites feel sorry for you and take your side, only because, you know, if they didn't take your side, they'll probably kill them. But it looks like the elite could easily kill them. Then I'm afraid we're going to go at war. I'm going to war with you people. That's correct. I'm having my 3-day war, whether you like it or not. It's my right. It's my right. It's a noble. It's my right. And don't say we're not nobles either, because we know who we are. The problem is, if you guys weren't racist, arrogant son of a bitches, we wouldn't what? We wouldn't need to talk about these same issues over and over. Rehash it. That's correct. If you had learned to respect other people's boundaries and not be greedy, but if you had learned to do things the right way as well and respect the Samoans, maybe you guys wouldn't have war in your own backyard be declared upon you, but blood on your heads, you name it. If you had learned to respect the Samoan, which you never, ever have, we only have to look back at Tupuola Lealofi III, and we know the attitudes, the bad racist attitude of New Zealand towards the Samoans. That's correct. The noble Samoans. They're royals. We should be respected like King Charles III and Queen Consort. Camilla, you people ought to respect us. Don't you dare give us trash like that. We come here, we bring blessing to your country. You take advantage of our people. You take advantage of this noble. You use my rules, that's correct. You're listening to my preachings without paying any money. You come into my kingdom without any donations. How do you expect, that's correct, a noble like me to bestow titles, let alone knight your people? That's correct. And have you included in my kingdom? How do you expect me? But you have not respected me in the last 20 odd years, and not even my poor dad, that's great, had to put up with the same garbages and the same nonsense, but only because he should have taught his siblings a fucking good lesson. That's great. They got no respect at all. You have the nerve, all right? Cohesion and misrepresentation again in 2003. By rape, and I mean rape without consent. By drugging. And then try to cover it up with that order of supervision. And that toilet brush in Oriental Bay, that's correct. Anthony Shaw! Get the fuck out of my kingdom! And don't you dare dictate to my privileges! That goes for Matthew Palmer! All of you elites, get the fuck out of my kingdom! And don't you dare apply these toilet brushes arbitrary dictatorships! You might be elites, but you gotta respect me! I've earned my blessings the right way, but you don't go and deny and steal my blessings. Don't get your people to dictate to me. You don't dictate to me. You got no right to dictate to me. Now let's go bully. Letting go titles. How can untitled men and women think who are commoners dictate to somebody who's got a knighthood? Who's got a kingdom? Got a throne? Wears an invisible crown? Have been preaching all this time. And you people have got the nerve. Well, the victim was asleep during lockup at a police station, and yet when my late dad appears in my dreams on 12th of October, 2022, to give me my wedding ring as confirmation I've earned my blessing, they still undermine women and their achievements, being ignorant, and I mean ignorant, arrogant son of a bitches. And they forget to understand that even Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, just like Fern, that's right, lost her virginity. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. And yet the German people must have been insane. Hast du einen Vogel? Wirklich? Hast du einen Vogel? Must have been insane and unintelligible, or let's just say unintelligent. To take Adolf Hitler seriously, and I mean, yeah, seriously! The hell! Hell Adolf Hitler! Hell Adolf Hitler! By making him the mad King Ludwig II. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I've just read that, haven't I? Well, now they know why they lie, why they are guilty of treason. That's great. So the people of Aotearoa, you had better behave yourselves. And during my ministry, especially during my ministry, your people are guilty as anything. That's great. Guilty of torturing you, guilty of dictating to your privileges, and controlling and even denying your privileges. That's great. But you are all going to be put to death if you're not careful. Well, the way I see it, it looks like the elites have been doing just that all these years. That's correct. That is the catch and the mystery of all these 70 so-called plus criminal organizations. The elites, being elites, have got special privileges. So part of the so-called mystery of these so-called criminal organizations is that they are actually part of the government and part of the system and part of the elites. That's correct. And the way they're part of the elites is that they either have sex with somebody, with their associates, and then people get tortured, and then people get dealt to, and even people get buried, as in killed and murdered. That's correct. If you think that what the Nazis did, the 6 million Jews that they murdered in cold blood, was evil, I'm sorry, but the people of Aotearoa are the most evil, racist, arrogant son of a bitches ever. With the racist Pākehā in this country who have been in partnership, they have been doing just that in the last over 180 years. I can guarantee you, I don't know how many people they've actually killed, where they have been able to make it look like it's a natural death. Oh, they died in their sleep last night. Oh, really? Oh, they had a heart attack. Really? You know, the paramedics are such great liars. That's great. I have learned personally, only because I've lived at this address. They are the worst. They are the worst paramedics. Although they dare to save people's lives, but they also dare to apply their harmful protocols. I don't know. I can't understand this. Can you make me understand, honey bun? Akin Jamar, that's great. What this bullshit kind of thing that's going on here in New Zealand? Why I am justified in requesting my 1,000 Nazi soldiers? That's great. The paramedics are in it. The police officials, the people who work for WINS, and every other, government organization, they all seem to apply criminal harmful protocols. Now, this is anarchy. This is anarchy. That's great. At its very best and at its very sophisticated way. It's camouflaged in the system. We got two systems running. That's great. One where it's just for normal, ordinary people, like a mainstream kind of system. And then the other system is for the crooks, and the crimmies. That's great. And that's what I have just learned. That's great. Listening to Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, I think just, oh my God, she's talking through her asshole. She's talking through her asshole, just like the rest of them in this country. Lie after lie after lie. That's great. I don't know how, they do they really need those 70 plus criminal organizations? Why do they need to teach people lessons? That's correct. Why do they need to control people's lives and and torture them in the system? I don't understand. I mean, they pass laws in the government for us to be law-abiding citizens. My understanding is that every minister, the government of New Zealand, is supposed to, make sure that everybody is doing things the right way and are abiding by the laws of the government, laws of the lands. But under the circumstances, because I've lived among the so-called toilet brushes here and the rat bags, I have come to understand that there is actually the people that we think are decent folks and that we put our trust in are actually part of these criminal people, criminal organizations, so-called existence. They actually apply their criminal protocols. Their protocols. It depends. If it's used for the purpose of, say, teaching somebody a lesson, harming somebody, and even killing somebody. And the worst thing about living among these sort of people is that because they're sick in their minds, in their mindsets, that's great. If you should say the wrong thing, and I mean it could be anything, the next thing that's going to happen to you, you'd either be given, you would be dead, either drugged overnight, where you go to sleep, and they make your death look like, it was, natural death by I don't know, they slept, they died peacefully. Or they could give you something to induce a heart attack. The Pākehās that work for the hospitals and even that carry out injections and all sorts of things, I'm sorry, but I've reached the stage in my life, and I've lived here most of my lifetime, being in your Pākehā, kind of mixed Pākehā, indigenous type thing, two system going on. I'm that clued up that I just know that's correct, that somebody has been doubted. Meaning somebody's just been murdered, that's correct. But they make it look like it happened, naturally. So what does that make you people, look, sound to me? They're no different from the Nazi. They're no different from what the Nazis were doing. I mean, they themselves are murderers. They got blood on their hands. And even blood, yeah. Guilty. And it's just sad, and it's just really sad. That's correct. And it's no wonder our so-called population is controlled. Is controlled. Never goes past the 5 million for some odd reason. Constantly, every day, somebody gets dealt to. People are killing each other in this country. People are torturing each other in this country. But it's the wrong people. And I'm saying, the fact that Tawita Lipina was a married man and he was an associate, part of this criminal organization, he was actually applying their criminal protocols. Man, he didn't need to target you. Afatia Baker and Hopi Baker, who is your dad's sister, married to Afatia Baker, and your cousin Amanda Baker's parents, they didn't need to tell Tawita Lipina, that's correct, who's a married man, to come and target you there at the university at the age of 23, 24. Go on out, oi. That's correct. To give you what? To steal your virginity. Which is something that is precious that you only give to your husband. That's correct. But I mean, at the time, I was probably thought, well, I'm old enough to be able to handle this. But I knew right away something wasn't right. I knew my body wasn't ready. I knew I wasn't ready for it. And he knew that. Hence the reason why I stopped it. That's correct. It's just as well because he violated you 3 times. Did I enjoy it? No, I didn't enjoy any of the sex because I thought it was at the beginning that he was making advances. That's great. That something sinister wasn't right from the beginning. As he tried to jump you or try to mug you on level 3 down level 0 in the library. That's great. The first time, that's great, which was really weird. And then the fact that he took you to the lecture rooms, I couldn't understand that. And you know, the devious part about it all was that your aunt, your Avatia Baker's wife, your cousin's mother, that's correct, Hopi Baker, was talking about, you know, making fun of turning off the lights. And I automatically suddenly realized that she's making fun of what Tavita Lipina does. He turns off the light in the lecture room, that's correct. And it tries to have sex with you, that's correct. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it looks like at that age, you were 23 going on 24. The fact that they couldn't target you, you know, they know that you would never become part of any criminal organizations. These people are slaves. The MMB, KKKs, those people are straight up criminals. They're slaves, they're slaves. The problem with the Baker side of the family, your cousin side of the family, was that they were really into, you know, because they had brothers, members of your uncle's family, were in part of that organization. Now, our immediate family, we didn't have anything. We didn't have anybody. We just didn't, we're not part of that kind of world. That's great. We didn't want to be part of it. So I guess from my assessment, reaching at this age of 50, was that if Lowinga, Safialu, your cousin's dad, so that there was somebody on your cousin's side of the family, our Baker family. Safia Mea, it sounds so disgusting. And so I know. Lowinga la Safia Mea, be Safia O, ilo ki ngā, but one of you 7 kids, that's correct. But because they knew that their status was, you know, they're criminals, that there was no way that was ever going to happen. So what they did was they went through other people to try and target you. So if they knew that they couldn't get to the younger ones, because you see, Avatia Baker, your cousin's dad, never liked you. He never liked you. He liked the other 6 siblings of yours, but he never liked you. So I guess the way that if he didn't like you, then he was going to target you. That's correct. But I mean, that's just so disgusting and sick to say that, to even say that. That one of your own, that's correct, uncle would actually target you. Meaning, he actually condoned and encouraged that organization's associates like David Tilipine or Constable Blake or somebody else, or Deborah Johnson or Matthew Palmer or Tony Shaw, Anthony Shaw, or any of the other people, that's great, and even this son of a bitch next door, to target you, to apply their harmful protocols. Now, I'm sorry, I don't even want to get mixed up with people like that, and Galen Riley, but it looks like they are all part of the organization. That's correct. They all have sex with each other to apply their criminal protocols. So if they want to have, get back at somebody, torture somebody, pay back somebody, teach somebody a lesson, this is exactly what they do. They have sex with other members or other associates to get back. Now, I tell you right now, what a waste of energy. It's a waste of energy. Not only that, it's a waste of time. And for a Christian, all I want to do is be happy and be married. That's correct. And have a family. You know what? I couldn't even have a family, and I couldn't even have a private life because you had these so-called stalkers and harassers. That's correct. These nosy parkers and these creeps and perverts, wanting to know, listening in or installing hidden cameras. That's correct. Makaiku. But I mean, the only thing you want to do to Avatia Baker and Heinz Trevoranus and Matthew Trevoranus and any of Dad's brothers that are mataitu, that's correct, that are perverts, like their associate Matthew Palmer, the only thing I want to do to people like that, men like that are not only dominating, fiabules, moigolos, perverts, is what? Bullet to the head. Take you out, put you out of your misery. Fese me, if I call If you're all, yeah, oi, that's correct. If you're mayor, oi, but they don't want to ask you out, like properly. They want to give you a drug to sleep, so then they can creep in and have sex with you. But that ain't right at all. That's correct. Men have got to, they want to be indecent. They want to behave indecently. They want to disrespect you. Instead of respecting you, they would rather belittle you, denigrate you, and even what? And that's right, and humiliate you. That's not good at all. No, it's not good at all. Thank God that you didn't have any children, because they would have stolen them and probably sold them off. That's correct. Probably the worst thing about your case with your rallies was the betrayal. What's the betrayal? That's correct. If your mommy and your daddy were part of this so-called nonsense, that they were going to target you at the age of 23 going on 24, and then target you again, that's correct, later on in 2003. Man, I'm sorry, but they need to be put to death. They need to be put to death. Longovinga, e mamai umai le mai o le incest. They're sick. They're all sick with the sickness of incest. That's what we got to conclude. That's why they apply these criminal protocols and are part of that criminal organization, is because they like to have sex outside the marriage arrangement. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. That's why they like to be part of that criminal organization. They like to harm and torture people. That's right. So then that means they are evil. That's correct. Amen to that. Here's the way I see it. Lovinga, David Talipine is not a good man. He's not a good. He's never been faithful to his wife, and I don't think his wife is a good wife either. I think they're both evil. They're both evil because they do not comply with God's 10 commandments. They have sex outside the marriage arrangement. They have sex with any Pākehās and any especially Māori. In fact, Tavita Lipine has twins. So I was told. It did say that he had twins to a Māori woman. So he has the Māori connection. That's correct. And I guess that's why there's so many MMBs inside this building, because Tavita Lipine is part of these so-called son of a bitches, toilet brushes world. That's correct. So he'd obviously been stalking you. I know. Who does that? I mean, you'd imagine that he's a married man, and yet he's been stalking you through other people, through his associates and his criminal friends? That's correct. So this would explain why they were entering your personal spaces here inside your flat. I mean, I don't understand why they need to enter your flat. Can you explain to me why that's necessary? Why does Tony Shaw need to tell this son of a bitch here next door in number 10? That's correct. Or people here, tenants in number 7. Or in the number 3 inside this building. To come inside, to enter your so-called private flat here, illegally but unlawfully. Why do you need to do that? Why do you need to behave that way? Badly. I mean, I wouldn't to be honest, I feel very uncomfortable, unsafe as well. I mean, if they come inside so that you can pick up on the sex energy, they want to lower your so-called, holiness, that's correct, down to a butthole level. My God, you know what? They better stop coming inside. That's correct. Because the only thing I want to do is stab somebody. Only thing I want to do is they'll cut your throat. That's correct. Stab you. Or pick you up and throw you back down the stairs. That's correct. Because Well, I mean, and another thing is when people are married, you don't ever want anybody else to touch you. That's correct. I mean, it's common sense. It's common sense. You know, Tavita Lipine had no right to touch you and make advances towards you in 1996. You weren't interested. Yeah, that's correct. And then he probably said some and he was making fun. It sounds like he was making fun of a lot of, making fun of you. Not only to your rallies, who are sick as well, but I mean, that's the worst kind of betrayal by your own family. Blood, flesh and blood. That's correct. No, right, it's not right. No, they deserve to be put to death. Can you imagine how Gavi Khalid Bennett has got a wife? Hey, have you... What I don't understand, and Constable Blake has got a wife as well. So, from my point of view, just because you lost your virginity to so-called to Tavi Tilly Bennett, don't mean that you are his property. It don't mean that he's your husband. I know. I think that's probably what these people had presumed. That's correct. Does it work that way? Hell no. Especially if you didn't even see the person. When the moment you discover that he was actually happily married, that he lied. Oh my gosh. And the fact that from the beginning it was obvious he was not your match. You weren't interested in him at all. Sexually. That's correct. Not ready. And I just didn't feel that he was, the one for you. That's correct. Can you imagine now how it feels? That all these years, that's correct. Karen Sanganga, who is a well-known local, works for Richardson Chapman, that's correct, at one of the law firms. She probably thought, that's correct, that man was my husband, that's correct, or partner. I don't know where they got that idea from. I mean, never. I wouldn't consider the so-called sexual, whatever connection that you had with Tavi Talib Bennett as we never had a relationship. In fact, I've never been in a relationship at all. That's correct. in the last 26 years, and even never. You couldn't consider my friendship with my special friend, Warren Baker. They probably were jealous. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this son of a bitch here next door. But, I mean, it's none of his business. That's correct. These men inside this building are maniacs. That's correct. I got nothing to do with them. The problem is they're crazy. They're crazy and they want to control other women that are not their property. You know what I mean? And because they're in the freaking criminal organization, they like to dominate women. That's correct. And control women like they own them. But, hello, you will never speak to me because I'll have you arrested. I'll ask you to leave. That's correct. I'll slam the door in your fucking face. It's because you got no right. You're a criminal. You're untitled. You have no titles. You got nothing. You dare steal from me, eh? I think about Tavi Talib Bennett has got a wife. That's correct. Man, the only property that he had was the woman that he married that's on the so-called marriage certificate or marriage license. That's correct. The same with Constable Blake. The only woman that he owns, despite he did what he did when he didn't have to, was his wife that he married legally, that is mentioned on the license, the marriage license. If you think, buddy, that you own this bird here, or this noble here, you're dreaming. That's right. You never did. You're a sex offender that should have been arrested ages ago. Hey, even if you're associate to a criminal organization, they don't make it right. You should be arrested. That's correct. But don't go through a lawyer like Tony Shore to misdiagnose me with a lying mental disorder. That's correct. To cover up his skinny white ass. That's correct. The Samoans are so stupid that I know, they cover up for the park just like with the Maoris. The only reason why the Pākehā seem to love the Maoris more, Maori women, than any other race in this country is because they cover up their bullshit and their lies. And they take whatever garbage or rubbish that they give them. That's correct. Meaning they would allow themselves to be raped by the white man. That's correct. They don't mind. Because, as long as they get what they want, that's correct. They don't mind feeling the pain. They don't mind being assaulted. They don't mind being drugged. They don't mind being poisoned as long as they get what they want from the white man. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that is a slave, That's a slavery type kind of mindset. That's correct. So women like Jacinda Ardern is not helping, is not protecting women. It is not empowering women. I'm an educated woman. But I'm being belittled and denigrated and humiliated and tortured. And I've taken it all. That's correct. Here at this address. But thank God I'm still standing. And even when my dad gives me my blessing in the form of a ring, now they all want to fucking come inside my flat. Stop it right there. Stop it right there. This space is sacred. This is my sanctuary. You Maoris got no business to me. I ain't part of your culture. I might have known Tavi Talipini, but that don't make me his property. Nor your property either. Because I would never speak, Mon. I would never ever be part of your culture. Because I know what you people are like. That's correct. You got no respect, but you're arrogant and you're racist. They have the nerve. Married men. The only thing that Tavi Talipini, that kind of man would want to do to women that are single, take advantage. Married men take advantage of single women. That's what they do. They don't care. Well, that's correct. The only thing that Constable Blake wants to do is to take advantage of women that are single. That's correct. Because they already got a hole. They already got a hole at home. That's correct. I mean, the kind of hole that you want to put your prick in. That's correct. But I mean, these son of a bitches ought to learn to put their prick in one hole. That's correct. Make sure you don't cross other people's so-called private holes. I mean, the hole. Not the... Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I'm an actual pastor. I can speak the way that I like. And I guess what I'm saying is that men these days, man, you can own a prick. You can have the biggest dick. That's correct. A huge stick. But if you don't know how to use it and not abuse it, then one of these days somebody's going to chop it off. Or is going to have it surgically removed or convert it into a woman. That's correct. So which will you have? Are you going to learn to respect other men's wives and their boundaries? Because I tell you right now, there are no guarantees because, well, I should know that just because a woman has got a virginity, still got her virginity, and that she marries with her virginity, does not mean that your husband is not going to belittle you, denigrate you, let alone torture you. Because there are some husbands that even when their wife was a virgin, they still converted them to a prostitute or to a whore. So I guess, meaning, what do I mean by that? They actually force their wives to have sex with other married men and all their mates and friends. That's correct. When she was a virgin on the night of their honeymoon, or supposedly when they got married. Except that was undone. That's correct. After the honeymoon and the rest of it, it was like, sorry, honey, but you better go and have sex now, with my mate who wants to have sex with you. That's correct. And, well, I guess under that circumstance, it would have been better for her just to sign up to a brothel. That's correct. Or a strip club. Rather than be married to a terrible, terrible tyrant, but what a horrible husband. That's correct. Although some women are actually good at teaching a husband to be decent. That's correct. So if they weren't Christians at the beginning, eventually they get converted to Christianity and they become decent, good, faithful husbands, loyal husbands. But I mean, it could go the other way, which is an early funeral. That's correct. Or it's all out, punch back, or a divorce. That's correct. Well, I hope I pretty much covered everything that I could possibly think of in this preaching. And if you take offense, I don't give a damn. Because why? Because, well, I am their Fuhrer. I am their Neue Fuhrer. I've got a title. It's called Dr. Snow Brown. And Dr. Snow Brown can say whatever she likes or whatever he likes. That's great. Because I'd earned my title. And a lot of my titles that are part of my play and inside my kingdom, they're valuable. They're rare as well. So for a lot of you who are untitled, you don't have any titles, don't have anything, I suggest you better think again about your attitudes and your behaviors, your antisocial behaviors. That's correct. And the fact that your status of non-believers and saying things that God is a myth. Well, you know what? A noble like me, I will never want you to be part of my kingdom. And I will never ever want you to come near me, let alone speak to me, let alone expect the blessing of being bestowed one of my titles, because with an attitude like that, if you're going to disk my God and disk me as well through other people, then you can, say, hustler, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen. Then I don't need to hear you. So my conditions stands. I prefer people that are not from criminal organizations. I think you can understand why. Because I won't have the patience and I won't take any shits, because I'll just chuck them out the door and I'll just have you removed off the premises. That's great. If you show me a bad attitude, if you disrespect me, and if you don't want to accept my conditions either, I won't have it. Right. It's a good thing at the moment I'm still a woman. Because if I become a man, a lot of you won't be able to handle it. That's great. If you can't handle my preaching already, only because I look coconut, I look Polynesian Islander, don't be fooled. I am not full Polynesian and I'm not an Islander. I'm actually a German. I'm a Germanic person. That's correct. Gaelic as well. But just, I'm a Pākehā in my own right. And I do things, thank God I do things the right way. But if you ever expect me to go the other way, you can take the highway. Forget it. Move along. That's correct. As for the rest of you, don't ever come near me, let alone do anything to me, so that you think you can have sex with me, because that ain't happening. Right. I'm married spiritually, thank God. I don't like men, that are married but are greedy and they think they can get whatever woman they want to get, bed hopping. Why did you get married in the first place? If you're going to have sex outside the marriage arrangement, why bother being married? If you enjoy having sex with so many women, then for God's sake, for Pete's sake, don't be a fool. That's great. Just say, you know what? I like the lifestyle where I can have sex with whomever I want to have sex with. If I fancy that, if I'm going to drive into another township and all of a sudden I just look at over there, oh yeah, I nod my head. She understands me. She knows. And, well, we're going to go. Yeah, I'll be outside. That's it. Spend the night, the next day. Right? I'm going to move on. It was lovely. It's a great night. I'm just going to go on, go to another township, move along. And I might see another person, another nice one, and we have a connection. That's it. And that's how some adults, that's great. There's nothing to do with being faithful and loyal. For some adults, it's like, it's either I have got a connection or not. And that's how I prefer my love life to be. That's great. I don't want to be complicated. I don't want to be committed. That's great. I can't be bothered doing the commitment part. If that's the case, don't marry. That's great. Then be that way. At least some men get respected anyway because women just want to have a good time. That's great. And some men, it's like, I can't be bothered. Yeah, me too. I've had enough. That's great. People, wanting to take advantage of people. Seriously. I'd rather be married to one person and that's it. That's it. He's got one prick. I've got one hole. That's right. Not one prick and 10 different holes and 20 different holes. Goodness gracious. You may as well have an orgy. You may as well have a full-on orgy. That's great. Amen to that. Right. You all have a nice morning. Take care of yourselves. And again, married men, one of these days, married men got to understand that if they have sex, get it on with other married women, well, don't take it to heart because the married women, like the married men, they only take advantage. They're just not going to take advantage of gullible dipsticks. That's great. And fools. They're already married. They're already taken. So that means the only reason why she's going to have sex with that man or that woman is she's not going to take advantage. She's only going to take advantage of them. There's nothing serious going on. That's great. It's like, but for people that are gullible and are naive, who probably have never, they're going to fall in love. But what they don't realize is, hey, that's a married woman. She's got a husband waiting at home. That she's just going to go to him and they're going to have a good laugh about you. You've just been taken advantage of. That's great. And that's how life is. And that's how life is. That's great. We just get on with our lives. But we shouldn't have anybody controlling you and dictating you in the background. It's just, oh my God, drop it. You marries, you don't dictate to me. I don't know any of you. If you like somebody, go and ask them up front in their faces. Not go and set up somebody through David Alipine, Constable Blake, I don't know, Matthew Palmer or Anthony Shaw or some other dickhead. That's correct. Women like me, we don't like creeps and perverts and men that go behind and jump over the fence. That's correct. We want it straight. I want it, like my dad. My dad went and asked my mother out. That's correct. Got engaged. He got turned down 3 times. But he still went. That's correct. Finally got the yes from the old man. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. My God. If not, they don't deserve anybody. That's good. They should be alone for the rest of their days. As for your dad's side of the family, they better stop stalking you. It's serious. It's serious. You don't do any stalking or harassing of any of them. And I don't need to know what they get up to in private either. What they even say about me. I'm not interested. Right. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.